well, just wanted to get the two of you together and iron out your difficulties, or to the senior citizen with Dixie, whatever her name is. Here in the commission room. We'll go in the back room. Carolyn, that'll work for you? Okay,
What?
we'll look for you then, Curtis. Thank you.
Oh, let me double check it.
That's fine. That's fine. That's great. But
Yes.
Michael, what am I supposed to be doing on this damn thing?
Round Salt 99. ROUNDSALT 99. No spaces, no caps. It's rolling.
We up and going?
It's rolling.
Only got 5 more meetings. 5 more months, 10 meetings. I don't remember.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Iron County Commission. Today's Monday, the 23rd of July, 2018. I think for the most part, we're up and running. No worse than usual. I'd like to start out this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance and an opening prayer. We're going to go on the fly again this morning. Ms. Bullock, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Dan, would you lead us in an invocation?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The same.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for all of our blessings. We're grateful for this great land that we live in, for the good people that we serve every day. We're grateful for the moisture that we've received, and we ask that we might receive more in a metered fashion. We're grateful for this great country and its people and its laws that allow us to enjoy such a quality of life. We ask that we may be able to do the business that we've come here to do today, and we may do so with wisdom and that we might be able to be dignified and accommodating for each other and different ideas, and come to the best conclusions that will serve the people of Iron County. And these things we ask and pray for in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Need to approve the minutes from a special commission meeting that took place July 12th, 2018.
Move to approve with her compliments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Departmental reports. We're going to start off with the assessor's office today.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
The assessor's office is working hard. We are getting things done. We just finished, since my last report, our assessment roll. County values are up overall. There are some areas that are up more than others. But overall, the county values did go up in the last year. We are, as Dan will probably report in his, the valuation notices went out last week. So we are starting to receive calls for Board of Equalization, both in the auditor's office and my office. So we'll start preparing for those hearings that generally begin the third week of September. We've actually got those dates, but we'll start scheduling Board of Equalization hearings.
Cindy, while you're there, were there any significant shifts that were highly noticeable?
Lay Hill area will have some shifts. Just the calls that I've received both last year and this year were, you raised my value because of the temple. No, I didn't raise your value because of the temple. Values went up in your area, and we have sales that indicate that. You and I can both guess maybe what caused that, but I didn't raise a value because of a building that was constructed by a large religious organization. But if people speculated or things went up because of that, we have to react to what happens in the market. But that was really the biggest shift. But because it's in Cedar overall, there weren't shifts in Cedar, but those couple subdivisions up in Lay Hill did show some pretty significant increases. We're expecting quite a bit of Board of Equalization, but I don't know how they'll work because of some of those truth and taxation, especially in our newest municipality. Their tax rate, and again, I don't want to take Dan's thunder, but their tax rate is about 1.5 times what it had been. Mm-hmm. So and their values went up a little bit, just like everything else, but their taxes that they pay, even though that's not what they're appealing, then because that check is more, we're expecting some appeals. When I've talked with Mayor Swan, he's saying that they're hoping in their truth and taxation hearings to make sure that their citizens know that because they pay so much in not impact fees, HOAs, that those will go down, and so the out of pocket really isn't going to be that much more. But I don't know what will happen there. We're still receiving calls from now more flooding than the fire, but I had a couple calls since those have gone out about flooding in Parowan Valley. So we'll need to look at that as well. But really, overall, it kind of, everything just went up.
Mine took a pretty good shot, and I wasn't surprised. And I don't live on Lay Hill.
You can come to Board of Equalization, Commissioner, if you'd like.
I'd rather just pay.
Anyway, so we're addressing or getting ready for Board of Equalization. We are also in the second year of a Greenbelt audit. As most of you know, the state, we're supposed to be doing customary Greenbelt audits. We hadn't done one for a number of years. So we're doing a county-wide Greenbelt audit. Those are coming in. We're able to clean up some stuff. We've gotten a little pushback, but most people are pretty understanding, realizing that, the problem sometimes is just people will say, well, nothing's changed. Well, something must have changed because the person that you said is a lessee when you signed this 20 years ago has been dead for 15 years. So something's changed. Even if they're still, we've just got to update the paperwork, and there are some that we do just need to clean up. And my goal in doing the Greenbelt audit, is to follow the law and do what the state says I have to do, but also just to make sure that people are in compliance and to help them get into compliance if they're not necessarily to kick people off. But, if they haven't had animals in there for a couple of years and they need to get some fences up, give them the little bit of time that they need to get their fences up and get some animals in there. And we've been able to connect some of the owners with some people that we know that are looking for places, especially with the fire and with the drought. Livestock men or women are looking for land, so we've been able to work through that. And anyway, that's going well, but it is a huge process, a big, big project. The state is also conducting a Greenbelt class in Iron County in August. They do 3 a year, and they wanted to come to Iron County, so it's a training for assessors or assessor staffs to come down. We've worked with Chad Reed, and we're thinking probably the big flat behind Navajo, where they've done some regeneration of some of the aspen trees. And then there's also some overgrazing in that area, just so that he and the state can show assessors, this is why you don't want to overgraze. So if you have a bona fide program where you're going to leave a field, you're going to let it rest for a year, this is why you need to do it, and this is why it needs to happen. They don't. Anyway, working through teaching some best practices to some of the other assessors. And then we're hoping to also, although it's not necessarily Greenbelt, but have a tour of Staley West, just because it's a great agriculture side business that we'd like to be able to kind of brag about, and then also explain to assessors why it's so hard to stay in business when you have these great pieces of equipment, but it's terribly expensive. It's really intensive in the amount of money we spend on equipment. So that is, I don't remember the date off the top of my head, August 11th, I think, but I can give you those dates, and we'll have lunch somewhere along, and I'll make sure and invite you all. Staffing in my office, we are back to almost full staffing, if I can kind of say that tongue-in-cheek. We have one more FTE that was approved in the budget that I will be filling in. As you know, and you've heard me say before, that we have a young staff in terms of experience with the county, not necessarily appraisals, but it's, we just hired a gentleman that's been doing appraisals for 25 or 30 years, but not in the fee world, not in southern Utah. So we have to get them up to speed. And then there's still a lot of classes. Got 4 appraisers going to classes most of the summer, and it just takes time off getting the work done, and then supervising those newer appraisers to make sure everything gets done. It just takes a huge amount of time. So we're working through that, and that's about it in my office. Got back from Nashville, great meetings with NACO. Some exciting things on the forefront. I'm on the Finance and Intergovernmental Finance and Pensions Subcommittee. We talked about the ruling for internet sales tax, which is going to help the not necessarily the county, but the state with sales tax and some other things, and then also set in on some public lands meetings. There was an interesting meeting about a fire that I'll get you the information on. They've talked, and it was interesting even talking with one of the commissioners from Hawaii with the fire that they're dealing with after or in conjunction with what's going on there. So anyway, some really interesting meetings, and I appreciate your support in that, even though Iron County doesn't have to pay. Thank you, UAC. You still pay because I'm out of the office, and I appreciate the support there. So any questions?
Thank you.
Were you still planning to do a cross appeal on that Greenbelt issue?
I am not. No. Talked to the State Tax Commission. They just said there were too many moving parts, and it was not because the local Board of Equalization ruled the way they did. The burden of proof goes with the person who won at the local. So we would have to, that burden shifts, and it's too big of a burden to step. So because the way it was made, we will not be appealing that decision.
Done deal.
It's a done deal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy, are you staying for the rest of the meeting?
I am.
Come on. Why are these businesses on there? Okay, that's going to be the question when he gets here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Go to the auditor's office.
Looks like we got some rough and tough security guys that just came in the back there. Trying to intimidate me or something.
It'll work.
Nope. Can't be intimidated.
Stare him down, glare at the back of his head, make him feel the heat.
Cindy stole all my thunder. I don't have anything. No, I'm just teasing. We did have valuation notices go out. It's always interesting time. Not a good time to have the voicemail system go down, which it did.
Maybe it is a good time.
Except for it just make people even madder when they can't get in. It's been hit and miss. Apparently, it's on an old server that we're waiting for some parts. We're going to migrate it to a better, newer server, but it crashes all the time. They were going to see what they could do to patch it. I haven't got an update this morning yet from Jared. But we've had roving voicemail problems, and anyways, so we're working through that. Just a quick thing on tax rates. I know you guys, are already fairly familiar, and we've talked about it. Tax rates have been set. Cedar Highlands and Enoch will be going through Truth and Taxation, and so as a result, we've had some combined ads that the counties had to do. I found out this last week that we can bill the cities at least for half of the cost of doing those ads. So that makes me feel a little better that we don't have to pay as much for them to advertise their Truth and Taxation. But
Why just half?
that's what the law says. Now I got to clarify. I wonder if I can bill half to one and half to the other, or whether I have to cover half and then they split the other half. So I'm going to double check on that. I'd rather not pay a penny. And also, and I think I've already talked about this, but tax rates, the tax rates float. So every year, in a normal year, the tax rate should go down. So in Dale mentioning that his value went up, I'm curious as to see if what your tax dollar amount went from year over year. A lot of times that can be different. So sometimes your property value go up, your rate goes down, and you pay about the same. And all people see is their value went up, and they're upset, or when they're ready to sell their house, they're not. It's not high enough. I'm sure Cindy lives in that world all the time.
Nuts there, yeah.
Elevator is fixed. I know that's not my line of business, but we do appreciate it. Everybody coming up to our office, especially this time of year. Also, I want to give the building maintenance department some kudos. They got my conference room finally. Got TV put on the wall and a whiteboard put on the wall, and I don't even hardly know what to do. I feel like we're finally moved in. Mid-year budget adjustments. I'm hoping to have do a hearing, and John and I have talked about it, getting it for the next commission meeting. I will, if I can, if unless there's any problems or anything like that, it'll be next meeting, and I will send out it's not a tentative, but I'll send out the changes to you guys, and we have to have it on display for like 10 business days or something like that. But that's upcoming. I'm looking to hopefully get that on next week. In my recent financial and budget reports to the departments, I asked them, made them aware that budget adjustments were coming if they had any requests other than, kind of out of. I tell them because I almost hate to ask for budget requests. Oh, hey, this is a time to ask for stuff. So within reason, if there's something that we know that it wasn't planned, that's a kind of a big deal that needs to be done in this year, otherwise if it's just a wish list, that can wait for more intensive budget discussions in the fall. And so most of our departments are pretty good. They're pretty responsible. They're not high spenders, nor are they irresponsible. So when they have a request, it's usually pretty much needed. Our audit is done. We will be expecting to receive an audit report here in the next couple of weeks. I plan on convening the audit committee to have that report rather than in this meeting, and then Alma can come back and present the findings to you guys for an official acceptance of that audit. I received a call from the head auditor lead auditor. I can't remember what his title is. The independent auditors, Hinton Burdick.
Bean counter.
Head bean counter. And they are asking for a change order. He said they have about $3,500 extra in cost with this audit due to time spent above and beyond what they planned. Last year we did a change order request as well, if you remember. They spent a lot more time this year even than they did last year. And his suggestion was, because this was the third year of a 3-year contract. We can tell them go bite the wall, or we can tell them whatever we want, or we can work with them. He mentioned that they had a significant amount of time extra that was spent. I pushed back a little bit. I didn't know if their time spent was as efficient as it could have been.
Was this state?
No, Hinton Burdick. They had 4 auditors. I felt like this year was a little bit chaotic. They had some auditors that were working entirely remotely. Nick Large, one of the main auditors, I didn't see the white of his eyes this year. So when you have somebody who's a key part of the audit who's not here and is making phone calls and stuff, there was times when we would pull records and we would pull stuff and show one of the auditors that were here, and then a week later I'm getting a call from Nick with a question on the same thing, and I'm thinking, well, if he had been here, he would have heard that explanation. You know what I'm saying? And so there was a little bit of frustration on our part. They indicated that we had more journal entries than in a typical year, which means more time spent. And I responded, well, half of those I did for him anyways. So we were moving in during the end of year process. We pushed the audit back. This year was a little bit chaotic. So I believe them that they spent more time, and that we probably ought to do something on a change order, is my opinion. The other thing that they said is we could just do a 1-year contract and pay them a little bit more in next year to catch up from this year. My personal opinion is we ought to give them something. I think we ought to throw them a bone, and I think we ought to not do a 1-year contract. I think we need to go out to RFP. We've been with Hinton Burdick now, I think, 2 full 3-year cycles. I'm not sure about that, but that's what they think is probably the case also. So we've probably been with them about 6 years. The state auditor and good audit practice will tell you that you need to mix things up once in a while so that you have fresh eyes. Different people look for different things. You tend to get kind of cozy. Of course, I'm not cozy. I've only worked with them for 2 years, but in principle, I think we at least ought to do an RFP and see who wants to bid. And competition is a healthy thing. I'm a capitalist.
Third year of a 3-year contract.
Yep, this was the 3rd year. 17 was the 3rd year.
And it's under contract.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they justify change order?
It's a request is all. It's not something it's not something we owe them or anything. We can tell them, no, that's what you contracted to do it for. It took you extra time. We're sorry about that, but we can tell them that.
Are we sorry about it? Inefficiency is not our sorrow, is it?
Well, I think that we have some of the burden. I think that really the volume was larger. That's why I say I certainly don't feel like we need to pay them $3,500 extra because that's how much extra time they spent. They suggested $1,800 to $2,200. I'm thinking $1,750 is right down the middle, and that's splitting it with them. But
Dan, were there any other specifics? It seemed like we had this happen a number of years ago, and there was quite a irregularity. But if it's
they didn't give me any specifics. I've seen the draft versions of the audit. I have a concern, and it's something that I need to look at, and possibly maybe even you also need to look at, depending on how it plays out. We have a number of items on our findings and on our other items communicated to management list that all revolve around the Summit Special Service District, which is completely outside of, it's not outside of our hands, but it is. They hire an accountant who does all of that work. I mean, there's like 3 items on the other finding and there's like 3 findings. It's a number of things, and so if that's causing them a bunch of heartache and them to spend a bunch of time, and I'm not saying that's causing them to spend, responsible for this. I'm just saying that's a concern in my mind. The overall amount of time spent, I really can't tell you whether that's 100% due to inefficiency. I know that the sheer volume of the audit, the county has a lot going on. I don't know. Probably don't know if I answered your question, but the only thing they mentioned was that they had hours, and that they said more journal entries than normal. And
But how does that negate the fact that we have a contract with them to do our auditing?
it doesn't.
Period.
It's not hourly.
It doesn't. No, they've bid it, and I will fully support you in the decision if you want to not grant a change order. But I do feel like, of course, I'm always one to look at myself and say, where can I improve, and and take some of the blame. That's part of my nature. But I know that, if I don't know, if we had our books 100% ready, they'd still come and ask questions and try and find stuff, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Audit is.
that's what it is. I mean, I don't know. I felt like we were done. We thought we should be done with the audit, and then there was more questions and more questions and more. And then I've already had this question. We've already pulled this record. I'm like, come on, guys. So I was a little bit frustrated, but I don't know. They look at things for different reasons too. You may be looking at something from a fixed assets perspective, and then now you're looking at it because you're balancing liabilities, and on the you may look at things for different reasons, and they do a good job. We have a good relationship with them. I'm certainly not saying that I'm unhappy with them. It's this audit was a little rough. But.
Well, if there was some major irregularity, something that popped out that took a lot more time that doesn't have anything to do with them, I would be more amenable to paying them. But still, even then, it's a contract.
Mm-hmm.
They know that, and they should in their bid. And of course, bidding's competitive, but they should.
That's why we do it.
That's why we do it. And
Well, it's the same as a guy that's bidding on landscaping. He may get in and realize, oh crap, I gotta redo all this I didn't know about. And some of those they have to eat, and some of them it's justified for a change order. But I don't know.
Yeah.
This one's a little ambiguous.
Well, I'm not even willing to talk $17.50. If we talk a few bucks, that might be different, but I'm not very Christmassy today about it.
I'd go for an extra 1,000.
It's the most I would consider.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All
I'll. I mean, obviously, that's something that we'll have to do a budget adjustment for. So I will communicate that. Do you guys concur on going to an RFP? We're gonna have to, as soon as this one's wrapped up, this fall we'll do an RFP for the next 3 years.
Well, we definitely
Yeah,
will.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's a good move.
Wanted-
It'll be interesting to see what their bid, how they bid it, knowing how much time they've spent, and how that comes against competitive bids coming in. Not to mention the fact that we've had them for 6 straight years. I do like these guys, but I have a hunch we're probably going to be with different auditors. Just the way things are. They'll probably bid a little high based on the fact that they feel like they haven't made much money on these audits for the time spent, and I think we'll probably have somebody else that'll want the business.
Chad or who?
Yeah.
Who's your contact?
Yeah.
Mike, the lead auditor that I deal with, his name McKay Hall.
Okay.
And for full disclosure, he's my second cousin. So I'd never met him until we met last year of the audit. But
So it still is an annual, really a tee-off. We have to talk about it every year. They won't sign the book as the lead auditor. We get the signature, this Pfaffen Buckner crap. We cuss them every year. Now they don't say it's an unqualified. they've changed that because we've said, why the hell are we paying for an unqualified audit? That's stupid. So they don't use that term anymore.
Yeah, you gotta love the language that they use.
Are you gonna bid it with them again?
Well, we'll allow them to bid.
Put it out to everybody.
We'll just put it out and let them bid if they want to bid.
If we need a fresh take,
I will make sure that we have Hafen Buckner. We'll have I can't remember the name. Out of Richfield, I've worked with them in the past. They're really good. There's a lot of auditors. There's a new guy in town in Cedar that does audit Reese. I don't know if he's capable of doing a county audit. I don't know. So yeah, we'll make sure that we get at least three or four. And who knows? I mean, what if we get one? Then we'll work with them. I really like the team. We work well with them. This year was a bit rough. Obviously, they've felt like they've probably not making money on us, but all in all, I think it's been good.
We didn't do their bid.
That's right. I hear you. Okay, you guys have any questions for me?
You've answered most of them.
Oh, thank you.
Can I go now,
Please.
Commissioner Blake? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Hey. Good morning.
Quite busy, haven't you?
I'm on it. I'm telling you, we're just collecting away. So, of course, I have to report our collections to you. So far, this is from the beginning of January to now, collected over 14 million. So we're cruising along.
Can you hear in the
Know it's-
back, Deb?
Am I not talking loud enough?
We can turn you up too.
Okay. She always has, so I don't expect that to be changing anytime soon.
Always truthful.
And then the portion that's gone to the county is the 2.3 million that's on the second page. So the rest of it we have shared with the other entities in Iron County.
Oh, charitable.
You're so good to share. Our outstanding taxes, they're at 4.9 million. We're a little bit higher than we were at the same point last year, but only around 400,000. And we're down 2 million since the last time I reported. Last time I reported, we were at 6.9 million. So we're coming down slowly. We just send out a new delinquent billing, so we're hoping in the next month or so we can bring those down a little bit more. Due to a couple of our larger problems, there's only so far we can come down. So, not to mention Black Iron by name.
One might last a long time.
Yeah. So we're doing well. If you take that out of the mix, we would be doing super good. So my girls are working real hard on doing that.
Do you have a figure on how much the major ones, what percentage?
Yeah, the
or-
one alone is 3 million.
So we're,
So like I say, without that, we would be phenomenal. So, on our pooled cash, just to show the overall of the money we have here in the county, we're at 33 million, so 33.5. So holding really well on our cash through the county.
Nicole, did you put anything in Zion from our discussion before?
You know what? That is on my list to
I'm
talk to
sorry.
you about today. No, you're okay, and we'll talk about that. The PTIF, their interest rate has come up so far and so quick that right now they're beating Zion's, Morton, all of those. So
it's good to hear.
I just had a meeting, in fact, with Morton last Monday, and we just talked about, really, they're in fact losing a little bit with some of their counties. So he said now would be a really good time for us just to stay with
PTIF,
the
right?
PTIF. He said when they can beat the PTIF is when rates start going down and they can go more long-term, and that's where they can actually make us more money. So right now they cannot make us more money than the
So we're even
PTIF.
doing 1% with PTIF?
Yeah, we're actually over 2, almost up to 2.5. So our interest income is really up right now. So, which I hate to say that because when I started the county, we were at like 5, almost 6%. So, but in comparison, we're doing really well. So they have both, and in our summer conference, we kind of discussed that, and now is kind of a really good time to stay right where we are. So.
Very good.
So we'll kind of watch that. Ben told me he would kind of try to keep an eye on that, and when they start anticipating if the rates are going to start going down, then that might be a good time for us to jump over and do some long-term investing. But right now we're, they just can't beat us. What we're doing. So we'll stay where we are. We do have that new PTIF set up for our new prairie dog plan that's with Iron, Garfield, and Beaver. So far, we're the only ones that have put any money in, so we're doing really good there. We have a new kind of project we're doing, which we're kind of hoping will help with our outstanding, but we're working on all of our return mail, anything that's returned, our delinquent notices, tax notices. We're really trying to track these people down with the hopes of course, helping us when it comes to May tax sale time to have fewer properties and try to get some extra money and tracking people down and getting things kind of worked out instead of waiting till it's 5 years and going to tax sale. So that's kind of a new project we're kind of really trying to take on, and we hope that we'll see some long-term results that will be beneficial for the whole county. So we're working on that. We've been working, of course, with instant payments and Jubilee with Canara Falls. We brought in about $144,000. That was as of last week. So we're actually kind of hoping to turn that over to Canara for several reasons.
How's that coming?
Well, if we could get Canara to get their paperwork into instant payments, then we could kind of get that going a little bit quicker.
Or the mayor and the board?
Dave has it. I need to call and kind of talk with him. We know that they're still accepting cash and not running it through the system. So because of that, I want to get out as fast as we can. So I'm going to express to Dave that they really should not be taking cash. They should not. Those are high school kids sitting in those booths. There's no law protection there for them. It's such a bad idea. Such a bad idea. And I don't want anything to do with it. So our budget is super.
Do we need to give them a cutoff date?
We're shooting for the end of this month, the end of July. So Nancy's going to she's the one with instant payment. She's going to kind of nag at them a little bit, and I'm going to have a little conversation with Dave this week and express to him my concern for their city if they're going to continue to do that. But I can't be the boss of them, but I can be the boss of our office. So I just think it's better we're done there. But my budget, I'm at 57%, so we're doing good. Of course, our big spending is at the end of the year. I'm a little bit worried that we may go over on credit card fees just because of the trend. I think that's really going to be, our mail was down last year and credit cards really up. But of course, instant payments and our online is really helping out. So.
Well, it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And it's
been
helped your
beneficial.
collections appreciably, so
It really has. It's really
we
brought
can't
our,
complain about that.
so So we'll just kind of keep our eye on that, and come December, let you know where we stand there. So that is my report. If you have any questions.
So on the PTIF, then the 200,584, is that the amount of interest that we made in a quarter, in the last quarter?
Probably, or the last year. It's
That's
really, yeah.
That's in a year's time. Okay.
How much, Ellen?
$200,500.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Like 2
On
years
page
ago,
2 of 3.
we were like at 89,000. Last year it hopped up to around 250,000, and this year by the end, I think we're really going to be showing. It's going to be awesome. So I can't say awesome because in comparison, but it's so much better than it has been. So glad to see that going up. It's going to be good.
It's fun to make money for doing
Okay.
nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sitting there.
Bill already shot me in the foot when he said he didn't feel Christmassy.
Yes. Good.
You've got 5 months and 2 days until Christmas.
Yes.
You got your shopping done?
No, I'll be home to shop this year. Yahoo! It'll be good. Don't look at me like that. You know you're as excited as I am. It's going to be good. I know. I'm just so perky about it. It feels so good.
Turkey.
Not that this hasn't been an awesome gig, because it truly has, but I'm kind of ready to not gig anymore, so it'll be okay.
How many years?
Year's 30. I'll just be right at my 30s, so.
So you're 40 years old, right?
Yes,
Started-
exactly.
Started very young.
I think I'm a day older than you, so I think
Pretty close.
Our documents this time were up a little bit, so they're keeping my little people busy, and I love to see that. Our transfer documents are up as well. Notice of defaults are down, and I always love to see those go down, and the trustees' sales are down, so that is good. On the next page, on the tender type, our fees are up about $5,700 this time. We've done a few more maps this last quarter than we did the one before, as far as new subdivisions and things like that. So people are still building, they are still developing, but it is not, I don't feel, at an outlandish rate. I think people are being a little bit more cautious. Most of the time they seem to have a lot of their lots already sold, or basically sold before they even record, and so that way people are not overdeveloping. And so I feel a little bit more confident about that. I think we all know that it's not going to be able to keep rising like it is right now, and I just hope we stabilize and flatten out rather than fall like we've done in the past. My budget is okay. I'm 49%, and I think we'll, from now till the end of the year, we hold kind of steady, and then we have to spend a little bit on paper at the end of the year. But other than that, we've done most of our big things.
Are you all digitized?
Yes, we're doing awesome. Right now, what we're doing is, before we moved to Cedar, you guys allowed me a little extra money to get some records from the state archives. The church came down and did a lot of filming for me, but there was a few books that did not get done. It was things that the title company felt like they were not going to really have to have access to while we were in Cedar, and the books were put in that closet. But Dana, bless her heart, has taken it upon herself to start scanning those books. And so she has been working with them. Maybe some of the books she's had to just stand there and make copies of page to page because they won't come apart to go through the scanner. So she makes a copy of them and then she scans them. So she's been working really hard to get the last few books.
She's a hard worker.
She really is. She is. For her physical condition right now, she really does keep at it well. It's hard for her to stand for long periods of time, but she works it out. So, and Carrie right now is in the process of drawing all of Garden Valley Ranchos on the CAD, and what a project. These crazy subdivisions have as high as 5,000 lots
in them. And so she is sitting there and tediously doing that to get them off of the linens and onto the CAD. And then Jared was able to purchase us a new CAD program and build us another computer. And the other girls are taking turns entering the fly leaves so that we don't have to stand there at the end of the year and physically copy every one of those pages. Some of them have 30, 35 pages per sheet of fly leaves to them. And so they are entering the names of the ownership for those subdivisions so that we won't have to copy those by hand. And so they're really working hard and trying to come up with different projects to keep them going and to move the office forward. And I really do appreciate them doing that. So they are hard workers. They're dedicated in what they're doing. And then, of course, there's always that little bit of tension when you know that an official's going out and the people in the office want that position, and so you kind of have to jockey around for that. But they are being very civil, very kind, and I appreciate that immensely as well. So they're great people.
So has the remodel been a good thing for your office?
It's been awesome. It has been so good. We get so many. What I love is the compliments from the public has been really, really nice. I mean, they come in, they say, "Whoa, it smells so good in here," and it looks so nice, and it has been good. The vault has been excellent to have the space in there with the big counter. It has been nice. So we do appreciate. And I too am grateful that the elevator's up and going. I thought I was going to have to pack a little gal up to the auditor's office the other day. She just looked at those stairs and you could see the brightness just come right off her face. But anyway, so it's good to have everything going. So we appreciate it. Do you have any questions for me today? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't get trunky.
Oh, yeah.
Too late.
Come on down.
It's my turn.
It's your turn.
All right. I've been waiting so patiently for this. For those that don't know me, I'm Mandy Williams. I'm the office manager over at the Water District. And I'm going to stand in for our leader today and give you guys a report. We've been really busy over at the district, and we want to always express our appreciation for those of you that help us continue to move forward. We have had the opportunity to work really closely with Senator Vickers and Representative Westwood to secure a grant for our LIPA and LISA program, which is given us the ability to give some incentives to the local farmers to change out their pivots for pivots that are more water efficient. And we secured $220,000 for Cedar Valley. And we've already had one pivot change, and we've got applications, I believe, for 8 to 10 more. They're hoping for 16 to 19 by the end of the year. And if they can't get all of those installed by fall, they're hoping for next spring.
So Mandy, are we applying for Earl Valley and Parowan Valley?
You know, I don't know at this time. I know that the money was just secured for the Cedar Valley portion right now. I know that that's a big push on why they're hopeful for more applications, is to be able to go back to the state and show them the need here and the interest here. And so hopefully soon that would be able to extend out.
And it was 220,000.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What's the approximate cost per pivot?
You know, I'm not actually sure. I know that Paul's been working really closely with Jake Benson and Tice Palmer with the E&I Soil Conservation District, and I know that they have those figures, so I apologize that I didn't bring them today.
And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. When I went on the field trip the other day with Paul and Kelly, I asked that same question. I think they $7,000 to $8,000
That's not what I figured, but I just...
a pivot, I believe,
pivot?
per pivot. I think is what the conversion cost was.
20,000 would cover quite a few pivots then.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty hopeful.
Yeah. So, and another big thing that went on to try to push out the information on that, Matt Yost, who's a professor at USU, organized a field day. They had that on Brent Hunter's farm. I believe that was June 22nd, but they had some really important people there. James Greer was there. He's the assistant state engineer. Eric Millis and Todd Adams, who are both with the Division of Drinking Water, they were all there, and they were able to take in that information. There was a lot of public there. So hopefully we'll be able to get the word out and have farmers know that there is the incentive, and hopefully that'll help them. I know that's always a concern to the public, and maybe I hear it because I'm sensitive to farmers, but it's always that the farmers are using so much water. So hopefully this will help on a lot of fronts. As far as aquifer recharge, on the 6th of July, we received a right-of-way grant from the BLM for the Quichapa Conservation Pond that they're going to put out by where we've been working on that aquifer recharge project. It's going to be able to be utilized for recreation purposes. Also, they're hoping for, birds, waterfowl, different things like that. So that was exciting to get that done. As far as the West Desert Water Supply Project, we have applied through the Bureau of Reclamation for a Water Smart grant. It's a $300,000 grant, and it's a 50-50 cost share. We're applying for that to start and develop our financial business plan and our water needs assessment study. So I believe that all of the paperwork got submitted on the 17th, to my knowledge. And another big thing that the Water District has just passed is a resolution for our water right exchange policy. It is the conservation incentives for developers that are coming in and wanting to do new subdivisions. Currently, or previously, the Water District required 1 acre-foot of water to be transferred per lot. And now we have set forth some tiers that those people can bring in a reduced water right amount as long as it meets certain criteria as far as conservation landscaping. Those developers who are putting in these new subdivisions have to have it written in their CC&Rs and that there will only be a certain amount of green space and everything else in the yards will be zero-scaped. So the district also feels that more and more people are more aware and want to be, it's kind of the modern thing to do to conserve, and we think that's going to be successful, and I think developers will appreciate it. We will still stick to our standard on the priority date that we're willing to accept, but other than that, they'll be able to submit their plans.
Date 64?
1935. It actually changed last July. Yeah, and that was brought on by the state water engineer coming down with his approaching Cedar Valley with the groundwater management plan. So we wanted to make sure that the water that we're providing to the public is.
So we're considering the priority date is now 1935.
Yes.
And that moved from 64?
When I started the district, it was 55. So it might have been 64 prior, but when I started, it was 1955.
Mr. Platt, do you know?
No. Sorry, I don't.
Okay.
Really?
All right, we're also in discussion with Cross Hollow Hills. They have approached the Water District to take over their water system. George Mason was their water operator, so he's made sure that everything was up to district standards when they were putting it in. So it will be pretty seamless to make that happen. We're already providing them bulk water, so we already have the connection from our system to them. Anyway, they really struggle with their well, especially in the summertime when SUU starts pumping, doing their irrigation. So that should be close to finished.
So are you saying that you're saying their well doesn't accommodate their needs?
You know, it hasn't in the last few years. So I think during the winter they do okay, but once SUU is in full swing on their
on a project that isn't self-sustaining now?
I'm willing to do the paperwork.
Rhetorical question.
Are you planning on supplying them with water from other established sources then, probably? Or?
So yeah, our system, aside from Chuck Shawnee Cliffs and Cedar Highlands, is all interconnected. So on those times where their well doesn't provide what we need it to there, we'll be able to pump water. And before we would do a bulk connection at that subdivision, they made sure that everything was, as far as like the power it cost to pump up to them and different things, they made sure that was all covered. So I think everybody feels pretty confident about it, especially where it's a subdivision that doesn't need to be brought up to district standard or state standard. It's the infrastructure is already there and good. So I think they feel good
Does
about
your
it.
contract have a maintenance clause that says we won't assume a deficient system?
I believe so. I should have read it all the way through too. I'm not positive, but I do believe that I've heard that discussed in the board meetings. So they're usually pretty thorough. So yeah, and then as far as our budget, we always try to stay conservative on our numbers, and we had originally budgeted for 40 new connections for this year, and at halfway through the year we're at 54. So it seems to be really, really growing, just like everyone else has said. But that's really all I have, unless you have questions. If they're hard questions, you'll have to wait for Paul. But no, I'm just kidding. But
Well, the final question is the district noble enough to pursue grants for Parowan Valley and Burrow Valley?
you know what,
Exchange?
I think that would be a good question for Paul. I think the water district, especially, for the portion that I can speak of, have really wanted to have good relationships with those valleys. And I think we strive hard to, so I feel pretty confident saying yes. At the same time, that would be something to discuss with Paul.
Alma, would the district have any more leverage for application than Parowan Valley pumpers, for example?
They may, or they could do it together, I guess. But. So this is coming from the state, Utah State University. Where's the source of the funds? Is it state of Utah?
It's the state of Utah, and I don't know exactly what department it is through. So.
Well, I'll follow up on that with them.
But you said Vickers and West would have been
Yes.
active in this application, so it must be State Division of Water Rights.
And I'm not sure. I know it was approved through the legislative session last go around, but I'm not sure where I don't know where the funding came from, but it did come through the legislature.
Well, we as a county would encourage you as a Cedar City district to be.
Yes. Well, and I believe so. And if Parowan was open, or Burrell open to working with us as well, I think that it could be a great thing.
Ask
So.
Paul to contact him and make sure that you're extending your services as best you can, would you please?
I sure will.
And yes, you're always welcome here.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mandy.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You bet.
Great report. Okay, that takes care of the 9 o'clock agenda as far as departments. Anything from the commission to report?
Quickly, had a really good meeting with Reg Johnson, as you know, and regarding the governor's initiative on roadless. We have a lot of inventoried roadless on our forests, which generally we're not happy about. But Mike Worthen and I met with the Forest Service and discussed all the different areas in the county. And Mike has come up with a really good map of areas that need treatments, even though it is roadless. Hopefully we can go in on some of these burned areas with a feller buncher that wouldn't actually make any roads, would just go in and take out the trees that were killed by the fire. Particular spot is around the Yankee Meadows Reservoir. It looks pretty ugly. If it had those trees removed like they've done up near Bryan Head on the private land, it would sure be a lot nicer, not just aesthetically, but it would also help the situation of the actual health of the area. So anyway, even though they're considered roadless, all of our lands need to have treatments from time to time, and so the governor's doing an initiative to sensibly do this, not to ask for anything outlandish. Idaho and Colorado have already done it.
Alaska.
And Alaska's almost finished. They have their initiative in and or their application in, and they're close to closing a deal there. So even though it's a national roadless situation, the states have been able to come in and do these initiatives to get some treatments on the land. So anyway, just wanted the public to know about that. I think it's a great thing.
Reed, you know where we are on the landscape contract here that Lester's working on? Are you aware of that schedule?
Yeah, I just know that they've worked on a packet, but I don't know that it's gone out.
I was thinking he'd sent it out, but I don't know that. And then he's been in contact with Rainbow for a sign out here. We finally got off the architect, which was a wise move on his part. So, John, we got some new holes out. Should you know?
I haven't seen any new ones in a while. I think his little the little.
I couldn't tell if a couple of little ones right on the main. I don't know.
We did get those a while back.
You don't know where
The fairgrounds building, there was
Some holes
that
poked in
big up there in the south end of the fairgrounds building. So
the stucco there.
I'll visit with Lester. He's prepared to fix that ephes before we do the landscape. So I know he's planning. I know he's got that scheduled.
need to change our war from prairie dogs to woodpeckers.
I had the opportunity to attend the National NACO conference last week. I sit on the Justice and Public Safety Committee with NACO. I feel like we were able to endorse, some platform changes and resolutions within that organization that will benefit especially our firefighters and the cost of personal protective equipment with the fire services. We're really trying to be proactive as far as getting some good solid scientific information as far as the longevity of some of that equipment. As it stands now, we're required to switch that equipment out quite frequently, even though there may not be much to any wear and tear on that. And we've endorsed some scientific research to hopefully be a little bit more, approach that with a little bit more common sense. The other thing that I think that the Utah delegation accomplished at NACO in the area of public lands, our group had several initiatives and platform changes that were presented to that committee at NACO, and all of those resolutions and platform changes that were proposed passed in those committees and went on to the NACO Board of Directors. Some of these things will just further our interests in allowing public lands to be controlled at a state level, and to approach the management of our public lands, in my opinion, with more common sense than has ever been than they've ever been approached. NACO's it's an important organization, and they really do have a strong lobby and a strong presence when it comes to things on a national stage. So I'd like to report also, I've been working really closely with our Fire Chiefs Association over the last month or so with these fires. The moisture content and everything else, the rains that we've received have really done a great job as far as extinguishing the fires. Now we're facing the aftermath of the floods and the mudslides, and we've been affected by those. It all ties back into managing our land and preventing some of these fire situations in the first place. That's something that it was really interesting to talk about with NACO. Fire's one thing, but a lot of eyebrows are raised when you start talking about the aftermath of the fires, the watershed issues and the property damage issues that they don't seem to take into account. It was interesting to be able to share that information and watch some eyebrows raise. But I want to publicly commend our firefighters and all the folks that are working in not only suppression, but as far as the management and cleanup. We're lucky to really live in an area that's proactive when it comes to those things. We've got a lot of great people in our county working towards those goals. That's all I have for this week. We're running a little bit late on reports. Let's just take 2 or 3 minutes and make sure that we are set for the rest of the meeting and get back to it just as quickly as possible to move on. We'll be in recess for just a few minutes.
Yeah, I defined you Friday. I just wanted to talk to you, make sure I understood what was happening. Do you have any questions about it?
We don't bid out. Excuse me, we lease facilities, you know, office space and buildings all the time without going to lease or to bid.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to bid that. Like, how do you bid it?
Our purchasing policies all relate to us
Acquiring
or disposing of property, but not just leasing something. We're not really disposing of it, so I don't know where it falls. I couldn't really find anything on it, and I talked to Dan Jessen, and he said he'd look into it, but I haven't heard back from him yet either. So I was just gonna go ask him whether there's something. The only issue that we have with this is that after I got this on the agenda, Alma talked to me, and he had been approached by someone else who wanted to lease the same property. We've had that property forever, and nobody's ever wanted to graze it. Now all of a sudden, there's 2 people who want to do it at the same time. And I went with this one, and Alma was fine with that and agreed that this one contacted the commission and got it on the agenda before the other one. The other one had contacted an employee, Preston Nelson with the road department, and Preston told him you need to get a hold of Alma. And he didn't get it hold of Alma at the time quickly until after the Hewletts had already talked to me and I put it on the agenda. And so Alma says, yeah, he didn't make the right contact, so these guys were ahead of him, so let's go ahead with this. That's the only blowback that I would foresee if you know, there was an issue.
Let's try that.
That's one you did.
We'll just see what happens.
You know the one that I've done. Yeah, it's based on the one that they have.
Look.
John?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Well, I think yours.
That's right. Knock that right
Will this
down.
play through it for me?
Should. It'll do the, and if not, we can.
Well, I'm still a ways away, but do you want me to just keep it over there with me, or?
Uh,
I mean, I'm not till a little later.
yeah, I'll give it to you when you get up, I guess.
Okay.
Like an evening?
Yeah.
At your druthers. Yeah, see, and I'll be gone first, second, fourth. Let's do it the week after that. Let's do it first week in August. Let's do it.
I made a PowerPoint presentation.
Go on.
Good. Be able to find anything out about it.
That's right.
We
That's funny you should say. I haven't, and I didn't look really hard. I started to, and I got frustrated.
I like to
You can't ask them to vote.
only when we dispose of property and lease.
That one release. Room, or the building space.
So it'd be maybe 2 weeks or
Always governmental entities, usually private.
everything. We don't have private. Let me know. I'll see if I can send it to my iPad and show it to you.
Depends on the question. If it's just limbs, as soon as you go into the scale.
Our interest in what we could say is in certain amount. This is a week's worth of grazing, $100. Going 40 acres in the sagebrush. It's just
Drought years. There's another guy that wanted to had something that might be true.
the second hand, someone else had asked. It's the right person, the right people.
It's only every somebody makes it, you know. But we don't really have much as far as policy here.
40 cents per head per day.
My chickens, so they just watch them, they're not all the way dry. And water, fencing, they've got to prepare for water.
Yeah, 40. Yeah, they've got a water. That's the one I do. I have.
Yeah, and I'll leave it for the commissioners.
Okay.
Oh, well, good, I'm glad you're here.
They did pretty well.
Till he gets back, signing the leases on the, public safety building.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You plan on joining us? Curtis. This you, Councilman Curtis. See that?
Okay, I don't know about it, but I can join you.
I'll have it in the room back behind.
When is it? Later?
As soon as we're done with, hopefully about 11:30.
Okay.
All right, we'll come back in session with a 10 o'clock calendar. First item on the agenda is public comments. Open the floor to public comments.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, my name is Bill Pressgrove, or William Pressgrove, however you want to say it. My mama called me Billy. I emailed all of you on the 13th of July. I have confirmation here that the emails were received by you. I received no response. So therefore, I printed it out and I've handed it to you. I think it's a shame that your regulations state that the public sovereigns of this county can only address you for 3 minutes twice a month. That's a shame. We're the sovereign, you're the servants, and we should be able to talk to you to the extent that we feel it is necessary. in a public forum as this, and not be restricted to 3 minutes. But the other items on there, one of them stipulates and shows that you have in your zoning code directed that we, the citizens, do absolutely nothing to our property unless we've had it approved by the county commission or your designated authorities. How does that protect my right to life, liberty, and property, or the pursuit of happiness, if I have to get everything approved through the county? Your job is to help the citizens protect their rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, instead of telling them what they can and cannot do with their property. I won't go any further because I don't want to extend past my 3 minutes. But you have there some serious things to consider in regard to the fox and the hen house. And the last one is regarding increases in pay for the commissioners without an ensuing election prior to the receipt of those increases. Even the federal government in Amendment 27 says that they will not receive, they cannot increase their own pay until after an election has ensued. It's kind of serious for individuals to be able to sit in a position and then increase their own salary without having a public input to it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, discussion regarding the animal shelter operations, requested by Don Ertz.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good morning, I'm Dawn Arts, and if you don't mind, I'd like to read something. It's my own experience that I've had with the Iron County Dog Facility. I'm hoping I can do this in 3 minutes. I didn't know that there was that kind of a time limit.
Oh no, for 3 minutes is public comments,
okay,
but you're an agenda item.
Okay,
But
good.
we still love brevity.
All right. This is pretty brief, so, okay. This is my experience. I tried to call and visit the Iron County facility a year ago, but never got a call back. When I attempted to visit the site, no one was there. A locked gate with a number to call. When I tried to call, no one answered. When I attempted to leave messages, no one returned the call. There is an Iron County website that provides photos of dogs, but the facility is operated through the sheriff's office with an office number to call. Eventually, I was invited to set up a facility visit and to meet with the sheriff's deputy at the pound. That was in December 2017. Unusual, I thought. I wondered why no one worked at the site. Who feeds them, cares for them, takes them in, helps with adoptions? Why was it so difficult to reach anyone, to visit or to see the animals, or to get a call back? Are dogs adopted at 3109 Iron Springs Road? I drove to the shelter a second time. Once again, I found a chained gate and no trespass sign. So how did dogs get adopted? I had to ponder. All that year, I queried officials in Iron County. So how many dogs were being kept and how do adoptions happen? I would have to make an appointment with the sheriff's department. Well, I had adopted pets from shelters in Minnesota and New Mexico. I had never seen a dog pound like this one. I decided to visit the Cedar City shelter. Yes, they had regular hours, and visitors could see the animals. Volunteers came to walk the dogs. I drove to the Enoch shelter, where they were also open for adoption with staff and volunteer who cared for the homeless animals. I likewise visited the St. George shelter with 3 on-site staff people and care, but not the Iron County facility. There you will find a locked gate with no regular business hours, no welcoming staff or volunteer to speak to, no callback. As I looked up the history in the Iron County facility, it appears it was not your typical shelter. In 2017, I received a call from a volunteer who said she's not there very often. She suggested I go online, set up an appointment with the sheriff's office because the gate is usually closed. Do you need volunteers? I asked. No. We never know when we're going to get dogs in or how many, and we don't have any right now, she replied. But I'll let you know when they come in. But there was no call. Ever. So when I made a visit to the sheriff's office to ask about dogs at the facility, I was asked to submit a GRAMA. That is government speak for a records request, which requires a government agency to respond to questions and asking me what my reasons are for wanting that information. When you pick up the report, you pay to see the answers. I queried all 3 shelters, which cost me a total of $40, and that's what public information can cost if you have questions about operations. The reports provided numbers a month later. How many claimed, how many adopted, how many transferred to other locations with undisclosed outcome. The Iron County GRAMA noted that 15 dogs were sent to Kanab in 2016. But when I asked Kanab, the organization, the number received at the sanctuary that year, they reported accepting only 2. So where did the dogs go? In March, Dale Brinkerhoff, Iron County Commissioner, agreed to look at the issue. He believed most of the unadopted dogs were transported to Kanab, and he planned to personally visit the sanctuary for answers. But the commissioner was not able to account for how many dogs were sent to Kanab in 2017. Only that few were accepted, very few if they had a medical condition. So how much does it cost to run the Iron County facility? And how many dogs were adopted, claimed, transferred out? I emailed the commissioners. According to an auditor's report of the Iron County site, $8,000 was budgeted in 2017, and only $5,000 was spent. I guess dog food is donated. We run a very frugal operation, said Dan Jessen of the Number. In 2018, the volunteer will become a part-time staff person, which will increase the annual budget up to $20,000. I emailed again about the hours of operation and when I could visit. On May 16th, this year, I finally received a call back. No, we don't have any dogs here right now, and I'm not sure when we'll get any. But you can look online. That was the volunteer turned staff. I can give you a number if you want to call. Click. Well, Cedar City and the city of Enoch have plans for building new animal adoption shelters for the community. The Iron County Commission doesn't seem to have any interest or need for that. Their dogs don't stay long. No, I have not adopted a dog yet. But there are some nagging questions about an animal facility that needs public funding but has no set hours for the public to visit. They can't show you any dogs, with a padlock gate, and animals that don't ever seem to be available. Their posted number is 435-867-7618. They may call you back, but don't count on it anytime soon. So I do have a couple questions. And if you could answer now or maybe at some point, that would be helpful to me. And you probably have a copy there. So a grandma record showed that Iron County transferred 15 dogs to Best Friends in all of 2016. But Best Friends only reported receiving 2. You mentioned at a last meeting that you thought all of the adopted unclaimed dogs go to Best Friends. And later, that they only took those with a health issue. So did a current staff person keep an accurate accounting of how many dogs were unclaimed, unadopted, or transferred out in 2017, and where they went? That would be one question that I have.
Dell, are you prepared to talk to that? On the number of dogs?
I don't have that information. I didn't know what she was doing.
I had several conversations with Best Friends, and they simply indicated, and yes, you and I talked about, I thought their policy was to take
most,
whatever came. They said, no, we don't do that quite. We take some that have medical issues or whatever, but she was very vague on how many she took. She said, it wasn't very many, 2 or 3, so. But she did call me back. I don't remember her name now, but I had probably 3 conversations with, thank Best Friends for being the food provider for our shelter, which is a huge savings.
So I have the name of Barbara Williamson. I don't know if that was the person you talked to, but supposedly she tracks numbers. Barbara.
Seemed like there's a lady.
Okay.
I don't remember. I can look it up. Anyway, I did have, I think, 3 conversations with them last year when you and I talked about it.
The second question, on numerous occasions I've been able to talk with anyone that works at the Iron County facility. The volunteer never returned calls. I did get one, and the gates were always locked. People are referred to the sheriff's department or online. Now that you have a paid part-time staff person, I believe it's about $20,000 a year, as at least it's budgeted for 2018. Why isn't anyone able to call or have some open hours for the public?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm just looking for some regular public access hours. So.
Sure. Lieutenant Schlosser, easing up behind you.
Okay.
To address this, in 2018, the commission did approve a part-time position within the shelter. We appreciate that. This is the first time that we've had a paid individual there that is staffing that. And as a result, that's 32 hours, 50 hours every 2 weeks. She is typically there 4 to 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday. But those hours are not set because it fluctuates depending on what's going on there at the shelter.
We've actually in the past had sheriff's employees that have done work there. They maybe weren't dedicated to that facility, but we have used public funds to provide part-time people there. Yeah.
And again, even then, there was no set hours because
right.
The situation there.
Did you have your new person coordinate a little better with Dawn, make sure they get connected up, so if she wants to come and visit the site, she can?
Was it December that we met?
Could have been. I don't have a note on that. But
Yeah, I'm not sure. Dawn and I believe her husband
Jerry.
was there. Maybe we met separately. I can't remember. It's been a while. But we did provide them with a direct number to Tom Bird, who was overseeing the shelter at the time. And again, happy to do that as well. That direct number is still open to.
The same one that she just listed.
No, that's a different number. It's a direct number to Tom to set up that.
Is that on the website? Is that on the sheriff's?
That was one that was given to her at that meeting. So.
Okay. So I have one more question. Thank you. It's good to know they have a part-time person there, but that hasn't helped me that much, or the public for that matter, I don't think. But Cedar City offered a plan, a shared plan, for a dog facility in Cedar City that is accessible to the public, very accessible. You now spend an estimated budgeted $20,000 a year, and there doesn't appear to be clear or accurate accounting of dogs claimed, adopted, or transfers except through a GRAMA system. Has there been a feasibility study or cost comparison done between using the sheriff's department time for operations and then a part-time staff person versus what the proposed cost would be each year to house these dogs that aren't there very much or very often, because I've never seen one yet, to house animals at the new public access Cedar City shelter? I'm just wondering, have those variables been looked at carefully to see what might be a better use of the time and operations of the sheriff's department, as well as the number of dogs that are coming in and out for public access?
So when when this issue first came up with the Cedar City shelter, we did, I don't know that we did any sort of an in-depth analysis, but the cost that came along with that Cedar City shelter,
$400,000.
Our portion would have been $400,000 to be involved in that shelter. We didn't think that. That was right. That was the upfront cost. That wasn't
construction.
That was just construction cost. That wasn't staffing cost or anything else that came along with that. And we determined that with the volume of dogs and the activity at the shelter, it just wouldn't be feasible for us to go in debt $400,000 plus the maintenance cost. That's what that decision was based on. Not becoming involved in the animal shelter in Cedar was a.
Do you think there's any potential for negotiation on that at all on your part once you look at all the numbers? And I'm just saying, just to look carefully at really what those costs are. It sounds like it's been a very small amount of money every year up until now, this $20,000 with the part-time staff. But I'm thinking in terms of a better use of the sheriff's department. There's so many things that they're addressing every day. I don't know that that's a good link to oversee a dog shelter, but the combined problem is if there's no public access, not readily, not noted, not available, it makes it very hard for me to understand the justification to have a facility there.
Sure, and to answer that, I think, when I came from, I retired from Cedar City Police Department a short time ago. Cedar City Police Department oversees the Cedar City Animal Shelter and has managed that for years. With having a new employee, this is kind of a new foray into this in the animal shelter. I think we probably need to look at that closer. I think the sheriff's office needs to look at that closer and make sure that that's being managed to the best. For the best outcome to the public. I wasn't personally aware of the issues, but I think that regular office hours, that type of thing, where people know when they can come and when they can visit an animal or at least get information whether there's animals there or not. We probably need to look at that a little bit closer.
Appreciate your consideration on those points. Thank you for your time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh,
this is Carrie. Haber, she's our
yes.
Carrie volunteer forever, so.
And Carrie, I recognized your face. I couldn't remember your name. Yeah, would you please tell us your name just for the record? And
My name's Carrie Haber. So I just wanted to clarify kind of like what's going on. So I am out there 4 to 6 hours a day, depending on my schedule. The reason that it's hard to have a set schedule out there is I don't know if I'm going to be at a vet appointment. I don't know if I'm going to be transporting dogs. So, you know, it's hard to have a set hours. The shelter is a little bit rural, so we don't get as much walk-in, you know. But while I'm there, I do, you know, and especially since I've been working more, I get a lot more walk-in hours, walk-in people. A lot of times it's easier for people to call ahead and see what we have, if it's going to be their match. If they're looking for a little dog, you know, let's find what you have. So my schedule's flexible, so I can meet people on Saturdays. I can meet them in the morning. I can meet them after work. If I have my set 4 hours middle of the day, then, you know, I miss out on a lot of those. So it makes it a lot better. The dogs don't stay long. I work really hard to get them adopted. It's a lot of footwork. I use a lot of rescue. So, and we don't know, you know, who's coming in. You know, we're going to get 2 dogs this week, no dogs this week. So that's why it is a little, you know, that fluctuation there, because we don't know how many dogs we're going to get. But I just wanted to kind of clarify that I am out there. Public can come. They do call. So.
But you are returning the calls when you get calls.
Yes.
The number that's posted there on the sign.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
And we appreciate that. And I know, you know, in my involvement with Cedar City in the animal shelter, you know, it's only been recently that there has been, you know, the last few years that there has been full-time staff, and we experience growing pains.
Yeah.
And figure those things out. How many dogs on average do you have? I'm just not familiar.
On Friday, I had 2 altogether. So it fluctuates. Sometimes we can get a lot in, and I'll have 8, 9, 10 dogs. Sometimes we don't get any calls, and that, you know, and I adopt them out. I work with them. You know, I don't sit at the desk by the phone either. I have a lot of hands-on in the shelter, with the kennels, with the dogs too. So that's why I always tell people to make sure to leave a message. But,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lieutenant.
Just gonna mention that with Carrie's help, the dogs do not stay long at our shelter, and you know, some of these concerns have been addressed with Dawn previously, and still open to that line of communication with her. The set schedule, given that it's a part-time employee, again, that's just hard to manage on the sheriff's office side with all of the responsibilities that employee has. She's not a law enforcement officer. She doesn't have the same responsibilities as a regular deputy that we had overseeing that. We did have the inmate work crew when that was up and operational. They were out there cleaning, taking care of the dogs. They are fed and watered twice a day. Just want to make sure that the public knows that they are being cared for. Carrie and the volunteers that she has, when we have dogs, they are there taking care of those. Secondly, we have the website, which is the most important thing to note, that as those dogs come and go, they're added and subtracted from that website. So it's pretty quick for the public to know what's out there and what's not.
When Sheriff Gower asked me about this item, he mentioned some of the commendations you've received. Can you speak to that? For the shelter?
As far as which part? Sorry.
I don't know. He just mentioned that there had been some commendations for the quality of the shelter that they'd received, but maybe. Anyway, I just wondered if you could speak to that directly. But
I probably better not, just because I'm not sure what he was referring to, but I can say that we do receive, as noted before, the dog food, because we are a no-kill shelter. Have been that way for a number of years, and as a result, we're provided dog food at no cost, which is tremendously costly if we were to purchase that, and appreciate that donation there. We do have the other volunteers. Carrie, is there 4 others that help you?
All right, now there's 1.
All right. It's pretty minimal, but I think we've only had 4 at the most. Is that about right? But just because of the number of dogs that we have, in and out of there. Doesn't take a whole lot to manage that. Now with a part-time employee, it's even easier with a paid employee than trying to manage the volunteers that we were going through. So.
Thank you. Sure.
So I know I didn't go into a lot of detail there with the number of calls and with the number of messages. There was many. And I didn't feel like there was a response. The day that I did get a call, I believe it was May 16th. At that point, the person I talked to, I don't know if it was Carrie, but she said, well, I don't have any dogs. There's no dogs to look at. I went out there that day within a few hours, and that's the picture I just gave you. And I was very disappointed to see that I couldn't like just go in there and see whatever dogs were there. I have met with the Sheriff's Department. We spent probably a good 45 minutes, an hour on this topic. And my takeaway was that, you know, you can look on the internet. When I've looked on the web pages on the internet, those dogs are not there by the time someone calls. So those are generic pictures. I don't know how anyone's able to adopt a dog if no one calls back and gives anybody information like, yes, I'm here today, can you want to come? I never got that call. I'm just making that point because it's been really frustrating. And there should be some public access. There should be some listed hours for the public to really justify the dollars that are being invested. And I'd like to think that those dogs are being well taken care of too. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 3 is a discussion on the administrative land use permit issued June 22nd, 2015 for the Blue Skies Ranch LLC, property parcel number E386-2, the property account number 492007. This property is located in Section 3, Township 38 South, Range 12 West, Salt Lake-based Meridian. This is a request by Jerry Ertz, also representing himself with this issue.
Sorry to tag team you like this today, but
no, you're fine.
It's a long way up here from the south end of the county. So I first started, first of all, I bought property down south of this location in August of 2016. And I first visited that place in June of 2016, and there was virtually nothing there. And then, you know, we moved to Cedar City and started building a home down there, and the property expanded and expanded and expanded, and it was kind of alarming because I've got a view of it between 2 sets of trees on my property, and so the concerns grew. And the first place I went to, I checked on the, you know, who owned it and the taxes on it. And the building was up that you see today, but all of the stuff behind it wasn't there in 2016. And they paid a whole whopping $5.50 taxes that year in 2016. 2017, they paid a little over $12,000 on the property. But anyway, they're operating on a administrative land use permit that was dated June 22nd, 2015, issued to Blue Skies Ranch of Tilton Johnson. There's presently at least, or that I can see, 11 businesses that are operating out of that location. Okay. The main one, it's BZI Construction. Since the land use permit was issued, there's 9 businesses that have been started and are located in that business. All right, the land is zoned A20, which is agricultural, and they're anything but agricultural. I started stopping into the inspection office and talking with Mr. Nye and Terry Palmer about a year and a half ago relative to this property and what they were doing there.
And I would be questioned like, okay, you report to us, tell us what's happening. At one point, they had a series of RVs and trailers way in the back against the cliffs that people were living out of. And those have since been removed in about the last 3 months. It's a 24-hour operation. For the whole time I've lived there, there's trailers that come in there middle of the night, load or unload, whatever they do. What really got me this time was this past May when the weather got nice. We opened up our windows, 2 o'clock in the morning, you hear beep, 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 beep for a good hour and a half while they were unloading or loading a semi in the middle of the night. And that's the last time I went in and talked with Mr. Nye and Terry, and they finally provided me with the administrative land use permit. The businesses that they have in there don't even come close to meeting what's in the land use permit. The last one that was registered on May 9th, 2018, it's a machining company. They make, special bolts, nuts, parts to go in things. It's called WEMFG, or WE Manufacturing. The next one was March 8th, 2018. They built paint stands. And I think I sent the information over the internet. I attached the information on those businesses on the request to speak here today. So they build paint stands. Nothing to do with agriculture. Okay? It's a manufacturing plant. Then you get to Building Zone Industries. They incorporated on July 7th, 2017. You got Perpetual Services, June 18th, 2017. I don't know what products they do. Perpetual Tools, same date, June 18th, 2017. Wyoming Domestic Limited Liability Company, they registered on March 21st, 2017. Utah Domestic, LLC, December 9th, 2018. Harmony Farms Incorporated, February 3rd, 2017. Five Star Holdings, December 22nd, 2018. All after the administrative land use permit was registered. And guess what? I can't find anywhere where Blue Skies Ranch, what you issued, what the administrative land use permit was issued to, even exists anymore. As far as BZI, okay, for the year and a half I was querying Mr. Nye, they were trying to give me excuses why they probably were okay operating there, because they had something to do with agriculture. First page of BZI's website, okay. Team Chemistry sparked into more opportunity, and a jump from agricultural work to light commercial was successful. Relationships developed with retail contractors, which led to greater opportunities. BZI soon became a significant player in the construction of big box retail outlets such as Walmart and Kroger stores. They build building components, and then they truck them and they put up buildings. Now, is that agriculture? I don't think so. So anyway, you got 11 businesses operating out of this place. If you look at the back lot behind the building, it's nothing but things, supports full of metal, trailers that they've got stuff stored in. It just looks like a mess. But a definite looks like an industrial site. Now, I don't care if they have that business, and the folks that are running that, they all came from Colorado City and Hilldale, okay? Where they belong is in your industrial site, not out on an agricultural spot south of Canaryville. So anyway, and then one of the things in the conditional use permit indicated that the hours of operation shall be from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is a 24/7 operation. And I got pictures here of the parking lot. If they only got 10 employees, they're each driving about 3 cars to work every day. That was taken Friday. And usually there's more cars than that. Does it look like 10 employees?
You can see the activity from the freeway, 'cause it looks like a ballpark.
Yeah.
Lights.
So anyway, can we concede, you know, maybe based on just talking with Terry Palmer or Mr. Nye, that this is a general, that this is an industrial complex? Can we concede that?
I talked to Chad on Friday.
Say what?
I talked to Chad, Mr. Nay, on
Okay.
Friday. He's in Marysville today. And he told me there were some problems, that he was working on them. He said, I'll get back and we'll have some discussion on where we are and where we need to go. Reed's here if you have anything to add, Reed, to the conversation.
The owners of this facility have an application for a conditional use permit that's on the agenda for the Planning Commission next Thursday, that we're hoping to address some of these concerns.
And that's why I'm here today. I was gonna demand, if before any other permits are permitted, you better send a letter, not post it in a newspaper that maybe nobody reads, to every property owner in Shoshone Cliffs. That's 72 of them, and maybe everybody within a mile of that place, so they can all come in here and sit and tell you why not to do that. All you got to do is drive through Hilldale and Colorado City. That's what Old 91's going to look like if you let them there. If you don't make them, you know, live up to the administrative use permit you gave them in 2015. So that was my bottom line. That's what I was going to ask you. If you're going to do another, if you know, basically they took this, okay, Blue Skies Ranch, which I don't think exists anymore. They've got at least 11 businesses. Okay, they took this administrative use permit and they used it to shove right up your keister. Now they're going to come back and ask, you know, okay, cover our butt and give us, you know, permission to do what we're already doing. That's what they're after.
Good
Disagree? Point. You know, they're an industrial thing. You know, I went to your chart for zoning. General industrial activity. There's a big X in the A20 column. They're in A20 zoning. They're an industrial activity. And anybody says that they're not is just blind. Okay? So they need to either, you know, live up to this, what you gave them, or they need to move to your industrial park in the airport. One or the other. Make sense?
Yes, good point.
Because if you let them, you know, Canaryville is going to look just like Hilldale in Colorado City. And I'm sitting there invested in my retirement a half a mile from them, seeing it and listening to them. And there's 71 other people that own property right next to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So a follow-up to the assessor.
Yeah, go ahead. Can I have a comment?
Please.
My name's Maurice Brown. My comment, just to follow up on what Jerry has, you know, one of my main concerns is oversight on the environmental contaminants and pollutions that are used in industrial. Are there any oversight on that place?
I don't know. I don't know what I
Because
don't
an
know as to-
industrial complex like that has to generate certain types of waste and use certain kinds of solvents and chemicals. And I would think that we'd all want to be concerned. I want to be concerned because my water supply is right there, you know, within a half a mile. So
Our building department does do code enforcement, yes.
yeah, so do they go out and check that?
We're understaffed, but they do the best they can, yes.
Well, I would think that a known problem, they would double down on that and put that as a priority. But that's one of my concerns, because our water's so damn bad anyway. We don't need anybody to be dumping contaminants in the area. So,
Sure.
my comment.
Oh, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Can I have a follow-up? You just reminded me of something.
Sure.
You know, for the first 6 months that I talked to Chad Nye, he told me that the inspectors could not get in there, could not go in there. The next 6 months, he told me that the county attorney was working on a thing to get the inspectors in there. And the last 6 months, well, we can go in there anytime we want. And I know Terry Palmer is the person that goes in there and inspects. And I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe after I reported or complained about the RVs and the trailers that they had placed in the back of the property where people were living out of, I think Terry went in there and then all of a sudden they were gone. So, you know, to that point, I think, I feel bad for them, for the inspectors. You know, Terry Palmer's a great guy. And I don't know Chad Nye that well, but he seems okay too. But I'm just saying, I got different stories.
Okay. Well, obviously this is an issue that we need to follow up on. I mean, we'll continue. Well, go ahead with your thought.
Cindy, my concern is, are those businesses being assessed?
Please.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cindy Bullock. I'm the assessor. We have assessed the real property, just so everyone in the audience understands, there is a different assessment mechanism for physical structure, so everything on the outside of the building, and then a personal property assessment for all the equipment that would be inside of the structure. So we assessed the real property. The current year's valuation was $1.2 million, a little bit over $1,264,207. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what the value is for this year for just the structure. Everything inside we had audited last year. We have had some challenges with finding out the number of businesses and the names of those businesses that were there. In the information that was submitted, I did take note and have forwarded that up to the auditors from the State Tax Commission because we were not aware of some of those businesses that you were able to find out. We did know about BZI and have been and audited that business last year. I was on the property once with someone from the State Tax Commission. We went in the offices, the front of the building, and no one in the front of the building had a key, and everyone in the back where the big equipment, the manufacturing portion of it, had a key, and they'd all gone to lunch. We waited for about an hour as we were toward the front of the building, and no one came back, and they must be off site, and we were never I personally was never able to get into that. We had them audited. The auditor was escorted off the property. We had
Meaning what?
Meaning they were not allowed in the property. There was some sort of an estimate that was done. I'm a little frustrated, quite frankly, with the State Tax Commission and their because one of the reasons we had them audited And it was a request that we had done, is because we weren't able to get on the property, so we don't know. The State Tax Commission has more resources and can look at income tax filings and is able to look at some other things. I don't know that they followed up, and we've been negotiating it or talking even this morning about what's going on with that. And my conversation this morning with Gina Holder, who's over the personal property division at the State Tax Commission, said that we had canceled the audit. That's not my recollection, so I'll go back and try to figure out what we did with BZI, but we know about WetJet. But I don't know if WetJet is one of those companies or a completely different company, but we are trying to figure it out. I don't know that all those companies even have business licenses.
I can't speak to that. I didn't prepare, but we can find out.
Yeah, but that's how we find out, is generally they go to get a business license. We double check with the business licenses. That's how we know that there's a number of businesses operating under one structure, and then they go on the personal property roll. So all I can say is we will be following up. Thank you for the information. You've made my job a lot easier. But any other information you have, I know it's hard sometimes, and nobody wants to feel like they're ratting out their neighbor, but if everyone just pays their portion, then that's how our system is set up. So, and this has nothing to do with the zoning. It's just making sure that if they're there and they're operating as a business, they need to be paying taxes as a business, and the county should be, not the county, but the citizens should be compensated, or that should go into the pool like everyone else has to pay their portion. So we were aware, and I have walked through and picked up some of the equipment in the back, and those storage units and some of that stuff we have put on as personal property. But it is
a mess.
It is a mess, and I feel like they've kind of every time and it seems to me, and I don't know that their intention is such, but it seems to me that every time we finally track down and, okay, this is the name of the business and this is where they're operating and this is who we need to try to contact to figure out what they're doing, then that business is closed and sold to another business, and then we have to try to find the other business. We attached, because they didn't pay the personal property tax last year or 2 years ago, to their real property. So, and there was some discussion on whether or not we could do that, but we did, and we can if
So you need to
the
take the
tenant-
sheriff with you when you go down to visit them?
Possibly.
Reed, would you make sure all these complaints are aired and when they're coming in for the conditional use permit?
Yeah,
in
I
terms
think
of
the letters went out the other day to the surrounding property owners. We don't notify, for the conditional use permit, we notify adjacent property owners, certainly not everybody within.
But will you address the issue of
But
building
have
permits?
a site visit scheduled for this week to go down and evaluate the property, see what's there, to see what's in the scope of this new conditional use permit. Their application is for an light industrial. Light industrial is allowed as a conditional use permit in the A20 zone. We're gonna go see what exactly is going on there so that we can see if it falls within the scope of the definition of light industrial for the conditional use permit. See what businesses are there and get a much better feel for it so that at next Thursday's meeting, we can address these. I'm drafting that conditional use permit right now, so.
So Cindy, do you wanna send an assessor
Yeah, I'll go.
You bet.
to do that assessment while you're there and
Yeah,
and bring them in?
I
And
just got involved with this project, so I'm just trying to learn what I can about it, and this will be helpful.
so you pick up all the businesses, and then 24 hours later they're sold and we have new businesses.
Something similar to that, yeah. But I will, I thank you, Reed, and I would love to go along with that. I'll see possibly if I can get somebody from the State Tax Commission. As far as personal property audits, I'm not a personal property auditor, but I will take lots of pictures and figure out what I can do. We've tried to I just don't have the background on knowing what some of those lifts and things are.
Sad
worth,
thing about
but-
this particular incident, it's not the only one we have in the county that's the same problem. That is a frustration in
Yes,
many
it
other
is.
places, and we're having a hard time dealing with it. It's frustrating. So much for that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just had another follow-up on that conditional use permit. It would seem to me like there's kind of setting a precedent here, you know, they're starting agriculture, oh, now we want this, now we want this, and before long, they're gonna be down the line so far, we're not gonna be able to back out. And I think that's something that should be looked at on whether we approve that or not, because they're gonna just continue to grow and grow and grow.
Thank you.
And I want to say something else too.
Sure.
Okay. In building my home, you know, I had great contractors that I hired, because I did the general myself, and great contractors that I hired here in the Cedar City area. Okay, I built 2 homes in New Mexico. I wouldn't recommend any contractors down there. And the conversation always kind of rolled around to the polygamist contractors and how they couldn't compete with them because the workers that they were using were not getting paid the same wages. We're not, so all of your contractors in the area are running at a real disadvantage when they have to go up against the polygamist contractors that are putting up homes. And trust me, they're everywhere. They're in everything. And if you approve this conditional use permit for them, the property on both sides of their property down there is for sale. Both sides are for sale. And then the next, I don't know, maybe 100 acres that Mr. Holt owns out of Enterprise that he bought is useless to him because he can't get enough water to plant anything there. I can see them in the coming years, you know, right up to our subdivision with their industrial crap if you approve a conditional use permit for them. Because they're gonna eat your lunch. And just like he said, they start and there's more and more and more. And you can see what they're doing. You gave them an administrative use permit, and what did they do with that? They ran roughshod off of that. They shoved it up your keister. And now they want to come back and they want another, you know, a use permit to permit what they're doing. It's wrong. Don't do it.
Thank you.
And as far as contacting all the homeowners, you know, I would hope all 72 homeowners in our subdivision gets a letter in the mail at a time when you're going to have a hearing on this.
Okay. Agenda item number 4. Possible approval of grazing lease on Iron County parcel number C-1053, approximately 42.47 acres of land to David and Lori Hewlett for Mr. Erickson.
Good morning, Commission. The Hewletts approached me and asked whether or not they could put their cattle on this property. This property is across from the Williams conservation easement on Old Highway 91 here, just west of town between here and Summit. On the south side of the road, the county has had a gravel pit there for a number of years, a gravel source. It's about 42 to 43 acres, and we have not had cattle or livestock on there in the past that I am aware of or that anybody could remember.
This
So-
is not anything of the conservation property.
No, this is not that property. This is across the street from that property. And the Hewletts, of course, graze on the adjacent state property that is the DWR property for the winter habitat. They lease also the Benson property, which is immediately to the west of this. They've been leasing the Williams property in the past. They have the BLM lease on the adjacent property. So they're familiar with the property in the area. They're willing to take care of the fences. They'll have to haul water for the livestock. They were cut back because of the Bryan Head fire on their grazing on the mountain, and so they're looking for additional property.
Conservation property, Reed.
Pardon?
Are they pursuing lease on the conservation?
They're interested in it. We're working on the rangeland management plan, and once we have that, then our intention was to go to
accept proposals for the lease because we were trying to trade lease for improvements on the property, and we're putting a packet together on that, and they're interested in on that. So they just approached the commission on the county and see if they could get a couple of weeks worth of feed out of there. They're not sure there's that much in there, maybe a week, but I said, well, let me approach the commission, see if they're interested in doing
So,
that.
Reed, it
that's
was
why it's
south
on
of
the
the
agenda.
easement?
Pardon?
It was south of the
Yes,
easement?
it's South Cross Highway 91.
Yeah.
On the east side of 91?
South or east, whichever way you think.
Depending
of it.
on, yeah, okay.
And right there at the junction of Red Canyon Estates or Red Canyon Drive that goes to the south, that little road, that dirt road that goes up right there, that's the corner of the property.
Okay. Okay.
With Highway 91.
Do you have the terms of their lease?
I do. The terms of their lease is current rate 40 cents a day per adult cow. They expect around 30 cows on there for maybe a week or so.
And so what do you need for a motion?
Approve this grazing agreement that's sitting in front of you.
Reed, does it have an expiration on it?
Yes, the expiration is September 30th, 2018.
Okay.
So we're saying it's from today through September 30th, and anywhere in that time frame they could have a maximum of 21 days.
So I'd move the approval of the grazing lease agreement. I'll not really read it into record. It is a matter of the record. It states 40 cents per adult cow for a period of 21 days beginning July 23rd, 2018, and September 30th, 2018 again. Terms of the agreement are available in the clerk's office. That is the motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved.
30. Do you need it, Mike?
It is today, the 23rd. Thank you.
Thanks, Reed.
All right, agenda item number 5, discussion regarding the alignment of a flood channel in Parowan Valley situated west of 2200 West Street and east of I-15. I'm not sure who. Oh. There we go.
So I've got a little PowerPoint here for you to help you understand the issue. I don't know if it's really actually called the Parowan Flood Channel, but that's what I'm calling it, just so that we understand each other. So I highlighted it in yellow, just for your reference. You can see that Parowan labeled there, the town, and on the right-hand side of the picture, the highlight starts, comes out of the canyon there, and through, I don't know what Steve calls it, but we're working on a retention area there.
Gravel pit.
At the Parowan Gravel Pit, okay. It goes along the south end of town there.
Steve, why don't you get up and point that out as he describes it?
Well, let's see, is there?
It's the very eastern side there. This is where we've been digging for the last 6 months.
Then it goes along the south end of town there, and then it heads out west of town. Takes a few jogs here and there, and then eventually goes in a culvert under the freeway. I don't know if this is helpful for you or not. I took this video last year. This is what we commonly refer to as the breakwater. This was on my phone. I don't know what the quality will be, but oh, it didn't play it.
Oh, let's see.
John, if you click on that, and if you go to the slide presentation mode, and then take your mouse down there to the play button. Then I have another one after that. So that's what we call the breakwater. I don't know if you can tell, but even across the creek up against that hill, water got out of the channel there, and it was running down the side up there. And then the next one, this is near Main Street here in Parowan.
This is the one that filled the freeway, Steve. This one that did all the farther down the freeway.
So that bridge right there is Main Street.
That's Main Street.
That bridge right there is at Main Street. that curves down on the highway towards Summit. And that's a lot of water going through there, a lot more than usual.
Was this last year?
This was last year.
So no, it's, well, yes, it could have been the water that left all the debris at the freeway.
This is definitely, there was 3 events, and this is one of them.
This was the first.
Definitely left.
This was the first
This
one.
is the big one that left debris. Yeah.
The first one from
Sediment.
last year after the Bryan Head fire. And it was, I'd never seen anything like that, so I went and looked at it, and I thought it'd be interesting to take a video. I didn't intend to ever share it with anybody in a commission meeting, but so, sorry for my filming skills. They're not the greatest. So just again, for some point of reference here, I labeled where the county courthouse is, where we're sitting right now. It's there on the right-hand side. I've labeled where Main Street is, and that's the video that we just watched. You could see the bridge on Main Street. 600 West, there's a crossing there that's quite often closed because of high water, just when we have a decent storm coming down. And then there on the bottom left is the 2200 West. And that red rectangle, that's the area that I'm going to focus in on here in just a minute. And then you see the Eagle Rock subdivision, which is of concern here as part of this discussion. And then, of course, the freeway, exit 75. So hopefully that gives everyone a reference for what we're looking at. But again, we're going to focus here on that red rectangle, and that's essentially that area here. You can see coming out of the bottom right-hand corner, there's a kind of a diagonal line cutting through it. That's a historical, and Steve can correct me on all this. Everything I know about this I learned from Steve, so I could be wrong and he could correct me. But that's a historical ditch that carried flood water. And then on the right-hand side above that, you see another ditch coming in above that, and that's where the water is currently coming from. And then you see the Eagle Rock subdivision there. That's an older image. There's a lot more homes in there than there is in that picture. But you see how that one next to the Eagle Rock subdivision, it ties into the older ditch, I guess. Kind of diagonally cuts into it, and then it proceeds and goes underneath the freeway. This is a picture looking east from 2200 north. So
West,
if you're
2200 West.
So I'm sorry, 2200 West. Man, I can't get my directions. So you're on 2200 West, the road we were just looking at. This is essentially looking east, almost from the Eagle Rock subdivision. There's a culvert there that goes underneath the road. You can kind of see the high water mark. Steve took that picture. That's the same picture, or the same area. I took that picture on Friday. This is looking west on 2200 West. So just the other direction from the picture we just looked at, and then you can see homes from the Eagle Rock subdivision. And this is, they're doing some work in the road. They're moving is it a gas line, Steve?
Yes. Commissioners, I want to put a second box, a twin box, right alongside the one that's already there. It's a reinforced concrete box culvert. The inside dimensions are 12 feet wide and 5 feet high. You can see by the pictures we've shown you that that size of a box will barely carry the flood we saw last August.
Well, and I was there when it didn't carry it, and it went over and went into the subdivision.
One of the 3 times it didn't carry it.
Steve, where exactly is that box right there?
Excuse me?
Where is this box? Where is the double box that you're?
It's on 2200 West, right at Eagle Rock, on the south side.
But
Southeast corner.
No.
Not yet. This is a county road.
No, this is this is the county road. So he's talking about, you can see a corner of it right here, right? That's the,
Yes.
on the bottom right-hand corner, that's one. You want to put another one right next to it.
Yes.
Okay.
On the south side, but adjacent, parallel to.
And
Is it larger than the existing, Steve?
It's gonna be a twin size.
Same size.
Same size.
so that would be here on the,
Let me
go ahead.
just say, Mike, in preparation for that, we've had South Central lower their fiber line. We've had the gas company lower their gas line. That's the picture Mike just showed you. We've had Parowan City lower their water line so we can put this second box in.
Steve, will you just point that out on that map? I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out where that is.
This is the Eagle Rock subdivision, Cindy.
But where's the box?
Right here.
Okay.
It doesn't show up on the TV.
It won't for some reason.
Yeah, so when we were, those pictures right there, you can see that the field there to the, on the right-hand side, the green field that's obviously irrigated, that would be on the right side of that picture. Same right there, you can see that field right there. So that's the area that we're concerned about, that we want to talk to you about. Earlier up in the flood channel, that goes through Parowan City, and I don't know the exact boundaries, but once we get to this subject property, we're in Iron County. Eagle Rock is actually in Parowan City, I understand, but just to the south, that rectangle, that's Iron County. Okay, unincorporated. So the concern is we have all that flood water coming down primarily from the Bryan Head. Well, the Bryan Head fire made it a lot worse, for sure. We got to figure out what to do with it. Steve would like to realign the property, or the flood channel. You can see in the dotted line there where it is right now. The highlighted portion is what Steve would like to do with it.
And this is down in that red county property?
Yep, up above, you can see where Eagle Rock Manufactured Homes, that's the subdivision right there that we're talking about.
Okay.
So he'd like to just have it be more of a straight shot, take a turn. He's trying to follow property lines right there, apparently. And then get it back in the channel where it would go underneath the freeway. But that's the point. I think a major point of it is to try and protect, people's homes and residences from getting damaged by floodwater, and I think part of it's just more of a more efficient thing. I think it's actually beneficial for the property owners as well. You can see it has the names listed to the property owners right there. You got on the south side there, it's Robert J. Smith, and right below the subdivision, it's Carlos Trustees, I believe is the property owner. As it sits right now, the ditch is really inefficient for their wanting to use or develop that property. It makes it kind of difficult. If it's realigned, it would go right down their northern boundary and leave the rest of their property usable. I know that Steve has tried to negotiate with them to acquire an easement for that ditch to allow us to realign it. That has been rejected. I've talked to...
And Mike, we've offered compensation for that easement.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, that he's offered to buy that. I've spoken with 2 different attorneys representing them. So we sure would like to purchase that from you. I was told that the property owners want us just to proceed with eminent domain. I'm not bringing this to you today to vote on that. There's some statutory requirements that I have to comply with. We have to give them notice of any meeting in which you're going to be voting on that. What the purpose of having this on the agenda today was to share the issue with you, to help, I guess, get some feedback if that's a direction you'd like me to go down. What we'd need to do is notice up some meetings, provide the property owner notice of those meetings and what's going to be discussed so that they can come here and share their views and thoughts on it if that's what they'd like to do. So again, I'm not asking you to vote on it, but if you want me to proceed that way, and as far as giving them notice of a meeting and having it scheduled, that would be the purpose of it. And it would only be to acquire an easement that's shown here. So it would affect Carlos' property, and Smith also has that property to the west of the Eagle Rock subdivision before it gets to the freeway.
So what is your position, both of you, that this is the last resort? We've offered to negotiate, we've offered a price, we've done everything we can do short of eminent domain.
That's correct as far as the Carlos property is concerned. I have not had, in '05, we had conversations with Mr. Smith, but we haven't had any this year. Mike tells me the attorney is representing both of them.
That's correct.
One thing I would like to say, if we put this along their northern boundary, then their 20 acres becomes much more usable. And we would have an easement just barely wide enough to protect the retaining wall that's here and have a flood channel that's 50 feet wide. Then if we get to the common boundary between the Miller Trust and Bob Smith, the Miller Trust is willing to put half of the channel on them. So Bob would only have to put half on him, except where we have to get from this boundary line over to this boundary I have to get to the freeway. They have a 7-foot diameter pipe right here. And it's too small. And that's why we have all those big debris piles. And commissioners, we're gonna see some more this August. I'm just positive we will. But I would like, even though the debris piles are coming because the freeway's a dam, to do all that Iron County can possibly do to protect these homes.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're improving their property by moving the flood out of that existing channel. We've offered to negotiate, we've offered to pay. Then do you need a motion to proceed? What would you like?
I don't need a motion, I just need I guess a general feel from the commissioners that, because I'm not asking you whether, at this point, whether or not you want to proceed with eminent domain. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you if you'd like to even, I guess, get the wheels in motion so it can be presented to you for a final vote.
As far as I'm concerned, proceed.
Yeah, same here. I'm
Please.
I'm good with going forward.
Okay. And so, as far as the timeline goes, I have to provide them notification of different things. Depending on how that all shakes out in the calendar, I can either try and have it for a month from now, or perhaps maybe even 3 meetings from now. I'll have to see how that works, because there's a time frame with days that I have to.
This isn't going to help our summer flood very much.
Our box that we're gonna put in this week, the twin, will help protect Eagle Rock.
Yeah.
But it
Time we get to
provide
freeway.
more water to the freeway than the freeway can pass.
Yeah. We've got an adequate channel now that will carry, well, it carried the flood last year till it got to the freeway that made a pond. So we're okay that way, but this new alignment will be so much better for everyone.
And I think part of the concern is that what I've been told, and I'm definitely not an expert on this, is this isn't just a last year thing. It's not just a last year and this year thing. We can expect this type of floodwater coming down until the watershed's rehabilitated to some degree. That's my limited understanding of that. So
I think that's a true statement.
So we need to, this isn't just a temporary problem that we're trying to address here.
Okay.
Ken, did you have a comment?
Oh, you're hooked.
Just so you know, the work that was done up on the gravel pit has been very helpful. Last year, that flooded out houses all the way down the creek bank. So, we couldn't keep it in the channel. This year, the city is currently trying to get easements all along that entire creek bank to be able to widen the channel all the way down to what goes through the city. So, last year, it actually closed the freeway. Once it got down there, there wasn't enough capacity to get it under the freeway. It went out over the freeway and entirely closed the freeway. All the freeway traffic had to be routed from Summit down Old Highway through Parowan and back onto the freeway, back down by the TA. So who knows what's going to happen, but we know from last year that the flooding is going to continue. We've been having flooding up Parowan Canyon from the burn scar. They've told us that we can expect that for at least 3 to 5 years. So I think that this is going to be an important part of that entire project, is being able to make sure that the capacity is being moved, that water in the channel all the way through underneath the freeway and wherever it goes from there.
Thank you. Mr. Pressgrove.
Just have one question. You've got 2 drainage ditches, the one that you're working on and the one that comes through, I think it's a Jones property, on the side, having the lower right-hand corner there, where the other drainage ditch comes in. Is there gonna be any way to bring that straight over to the new ditch, or is it gonna follow the old channel all the way over to the freeway?
That drainage ditch that was in the previous picture's completely been abandoned. Before the floods of 2005, when we had tremendous snowpack, Steve and his group got further east. They got a better alignment, and so that strip you see there is completely eliminated. That doesn't carry any flood water anymore.
Thank you.
As part of this whole deal, the old channel will be completely filled in. The county will do that when we have the new one. At no cost to the property owners, we will fill in the old channel. And because of the EWP money we have from the Bryan Head Fire, this box isn't costing you anything. You're only gonna have to come up with the money to buy what we have to pay Carlos and
Smith.
Smith, because the federal money doesn't buy easements.
So it's kind of an anomaly. They're gonna buy the easement, we're gonna fix their property, and we're gonna pay them to let us fix their property.
Well, I think that ought to be part of the eminent domain, is that a lot of their property gets put in a better position.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's
Well,
their value?
and we're happy to pay them fair market value for this easement. Absolutely happy to do that.
Well, I'm on board to move forward.
Yeah, I think we proceed
I will.
as quick as we can.
Yeah, I'll prepare the notifications right as soon as I can, send it to them, and see if we can get with John and schedule that accordingly.
Depending on what they require, this is an anomaly, but we actually have 3 weeks until the next meeting. I don't know if that would fall in your window or not, but
There's a 30-day window that I have to comply with. That's one of the concerns.
Cindy's got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Cindy Bullock, not the assessor, but private property rights are still private property rights, and your version of improving someone's property may not be their version, and taking someone's property, having my property taken in an eminent domain action should be taken very seriously, and you should not take it, I know Steve's, but it is last resort before you ever take anyone's property. It is in the Constitution, it is what we all believe. My property is my property to do with what I want, is what Mr. Pressgrove has been complaining about. And I think you should be very hesitant in ever taking that action, ever.
And we concur with
I
that.
agree,
I'm a
absolutely.
property owner, and that's why I made a very point that, is this a matter of last resort? Have we offered to compensate? Have we negotiated every possible way to make this work? So,
And this is,
Some of those negotiations have come in an eminent domain action, so I certainly hope they have.
so I've been in the county attorney's office for over 10 and a half years. There's one other time I remember considering with Steve going into eminent domain, but it never did. It ultimately negotiated out. So I've never been involved in eminent domain in the county, so this is not something that we
don't do it
on a regular basis, or we take pretty lightly. I do agree that this is the last ditch effort, and so anyway, but it's up to the commission. If you guys want to do it, we can do it. If you don't want to, then we don't have to.
Well, hopefully we can negotiate and not have to do eminent domain. Apparently,
Well-
they've said they want us to do that, which is surprising to me.
What they told me.
well, and to Cindy's point, it's an onerous process for a reason.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Feels like it.
Moving on to agenda item number 6. Discussion and possible approval of contract with Acer Roofing for the replacement of the roofing soffit and fascia for the Iron County Visitor Center.
I assume you have the numbers in your packet. Do you not? Okay. I'm filling in for Lester. He is in Wyoming, Yellowstone somewhere this week with his family. So he asked me to cover this on the agenda, and I do have the RFP here. The bid was for replacement of the asphalt shingles, and there was an A and a B. So there was 2 items, one for the shingles and one for the replacement of the soffit and fascia. This is for the Visitor Center office building that is being leased to 5 County, and where our IT is and where the extension service is. And so the pricing for the roof is $34,716.94. The fascia and soffit is $24,458, $1,059,175.57 for a total of $59,175.51. The bid is under budget as what was prepared for the property. Everything else is in order. The recommendation of staff is to recommend approval of this contract.
Okay, I move that we approve the contract with Acer Roofing for the replacement of the roofing, soffit, and fascia on the Visitor Center office building. The grand total, which comes in under budget, is $59,175.57. 51 cents.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. Number 7, review and possible approval of contract with Bryan Head Town regarding trash collection of unincorporated areas near Bryan Head. Dan, right?
Oh, good, because I wasn't ready to speak to that one.
You need some more.
No, I might have to speak to it.
Bruce wanted to be here but was unable to. I was involved, as was Alma. I figured Alma probably has as much to say on this as I do. And Alma addressed it last week. We had an unwritten agreement, and we thought it was written, but we just couldn't find it, and it was based on a trade. We weren't able to really establish where that came from, and so a good practice is to review these things and make sure that they're justifiable and all that stuff, which is what we did. It's a trade on the solid waste collection agreement with Bryan Head. So we don't have to drive all the way up the hill to collect some of the unincorporated citizens' garbage. So they do it for us. We had been doing some trade. The new agreement is that they would do it, and rather than trade, we would trade checks. So they're going to bill us $8 a customer. We're billing $10 to those customers, leaving us $2 to take care of overhead and so forth, on some of the cost of billing and so forth, and they will take care of those. The nice thing about that is it future-proofs it, so the cost could change and may have to look at it again, but if the number of people that are unincorporated change due to an annexation or due to a new subdivision, then this will automatically adjust, and they'll look at that. Was it annually, Alma?
Yes. Annually on the number of units, and reviewed, for if the amount we're paying them is fair. That'll be reviewed.
Right now we have Rainbow Meadows currently at 60 units, Meadow Lake at 59, and Aspen and Skiview currently at 35 units.
Dan, is this collection only, or is landfill included in that fee?
That's collection only. We bill out landfill ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is collection only, Alma?
It's collection only, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good agreement, and it will be way better than the last one because it can be easily adjusted with the numbers. So we're happy to sit down. Everybody was really congenial on this, and it just worked out well. All the parties came together. So I do move approval of the contract with Bryan Head Town regarding trash collection of unincorporated areas near Bryan Head, as stated here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is approved.
Bruce couldn't be here today because he had to get on a truck because of some health problems with employees and so on. So anyway.
Celebrity, before you go on to the next item.
Yes, sir.
We have a meeting at 2 o'clock today with railroad, or UDOT, talking about railroad crossings for the Belt Route. We had a hard time getting together last week for taking a look at the information that's available for the Belt Route before we go to public. I was wondering if you'd have time this afternoon before that meeting at 2, that maybe we could spend a few minutes going over the Belt Route alignment so we can put it out to the public with the information that we have currently, or if there's a better day this week that you'd rather do it.
No, let's get it done.
Can we do it like at 1 o'clock or 1:30 over in Cedar after you finish here, if you'll be through in time? Or will you make it? 1:30. Or do you want to do it after that meeting with UDOT?
Let's see how we're about done with this morning's.
Yeah.
So then we've got another
meeting
meeting after this.
Okay.
So, anyway, I'm
Well,
gonna
I'll be in
there by
Cedar at 1 if you guys can get there before that meeting. I don't know if you're coming to the, I know you were planning on it.
I have.
But
I've
I just
never-
wanted to get that, I sent you a copy of that. You know, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it online and see what the alignment information is, but I wanted to make sure you're all comfortable with it before we put it public on the website.
And I have
So,
another.
have a little discussion
Another
about it.
piece to bring for consideration too that we'll talk about.
Yeah, so I just didn't know when best, would you rather schedule time maybe Wednesday morning to do it? I don't know what your availability
No,
is.
let's get it done today.
Today's better. I've got interviews with HR all morning Wednesday morning, and then I'll be gone the rest of the week after that.
I can go through it quickly, like at 1:30. We just plan on 1:30 in Cedar office.
Well,
Providing
we make it.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
We may have a majority, because I've got some conflicts, but I'll talk to you on the phone or something.
Okay, yeah, if you look through that, if you have concerns or whatever, I just wanted to get it out.
We'll be there as soon as possible, but I'll be there.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to disrupt.
No, thank you. Number 8, authorization of Iron County, Bryan Head Fire, Paraguna Watershed Protection Projects. It's a ratification of a previously signed authorization.
This was the one I was telling you that we got the wording just a little bit wrong. It should say emergency watershed protection.
Okay, so is that the only thing that we're?
Yeah, that Steve brought that to my attention.
Moving the
Just approving the.
signature.
Yeah, we needed to move that forward. It was time sensitive, and it was to receive $1 million plus.
Watershed protection, it's emergency watershed protection.
So the motion is to approve the action already taken to approve the authorization of Bryan County, Bryan Head Fire, Paraguna EWP project. This is ratification of previously signed contract. Move the approval to allow the chairman to sign that document.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is approved. Is there a signature?
No, because you've already
Okay.
executed it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Move on to personnel issues. Betsy, thanks for being here today.
You want to do them all before you approve all the new hires or promotions, or do you want me to do them separate?
Let's do D separate.
Let's do the sheriff. Let's do A, B, and C together.
Okay.
And then let's do D.
The first item we have is a new hire for the sheriff's office. It's David Patrick Wadsworth as full-time deputy, effective July 15th, 2018. This is a backfill of a vacant position left by the resignation of Orlista Masters.
Okay.
The next one is for corrections, a new hire as corrections deputy 1, Clayton Smith. Effective date is July 30th. Clayton was selected from our current roster to backfill a position that was left by the transfer of Doug Johnson to the new medical supervisor. The next one is the attorney's office. Scott Garrett has requested that Chad Dotson be promoted to Chief Deputy Attorney Criminal, effective July 15th, 2018.
I just have a couple questions on probably for Dell. Were these, just out of curiosity, are these guys certified, or are we sending them to the academy?
They're going to the academy.
Fortunately, we were able to get 2 slots in the July academy.
Oh, good.
Came open much faster than the August 27th date that we had. But I did hold, fortunately, the August 27th date. We're going to need it. But waiting on that current roster to close before we do a final on.
Gotcha. Just curious. Okay.
That does, and I will just mention, that does kind of close out our current roster that we're in.
Well, that was
not the one that we
wondered about that. So are we going to open another roster then?
We have it open now.
You have it
Yes.
open. You have it open.
Closes next week.
Good, good.
Great.
Okay, I move approval in the Sheriff's Department, new hire D. Patrick Wadsworth as a full-time Deputy 1, effective date July 15, 2018, backfill of vacant position. Corrections, new hire Clayton Smith as full-time Deputy 1, effective date July 30, 2018, also a backfill of a vacant position. In the Attorney's Office, approval of promotion of Chad Dotson from Deputy Attorney 2 to Chief Deputy Attorney / Criminal, effective July 15, 2018.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those are approved. Item number D.
You want me to talk about that?
Do you want me to talk about it, or do you want to?
I have the information, but you may know more about the reasons behind it than I do.
Sure.
Put your mic down.
I don't want you to hear me.
I'll talk about this just briefly. What this is a request for approval of a revised job description for the Children's Justice Center Director position, which would include the wording, basically that supervision would be moved from underneath the county attorney's office and be moved to direct supervision of the Board of Commissioners. So when the Children's Justice Center first came to the county about 16 years ago, we were one of the first centers in the state. At that time, they weren't really sure of how to administer. This was a brand new program. They determined that that they would put it underneath the county attorney's office, just because there needed to be some kind of supervision within the county. Since then, fast forward 16 years, we have a Children's Justice Center that oversees and manages a number of employees, not only employees, but other centers, both Iron County, Kane County, Beaver County, and soon to be Garfield County. Speaking with the Attorney General's office, who ultimately oversees the statewide program of the Children's Justice Center, it just made sense to basically make the Children's Justice Center its own department within the county, to where Stephanie would be overseen just like any other department head within the county. It would answer to the county commission, and not necessarily to the county attorney's office. That being said, she didn't really answer to the county attorney's office anyway. There was no supervision as far as her budget, operations, or anything else. She just basically fell within that department, but she's been autonomous anyway. Speaking with the Attorney General's office, that just made sense to basically make her an autonomous department that answers to the commission.
So I'd move the approval of the revised job description for Children's Justice Center Director position, which includes a change to supervision received section along with other minor updates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you. Non-delegated items. Anything?
No, I think the courthouse is coming along with get the EFA done before the landscaping starts.
Lester assured us that he would take care of that before the landscape, so we don't have
Makes good.
JLG out on the.
And it's a little bit messy. I noticed during the construction there's stuff drips.
We won't proceed with the landscape until till the EFS holes are corrected.
Still a lot of positive comments about the courthouse. I had several last week.
If we get a sign so people know what it is.
Yeah.
We'll ask Lester to come in in 2 weeks and give us an update on the sign and the, I don't know where he is on the contract. I thought he had sent it out, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm not sure either.
Okay.
Okay. If nothing else, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
And we'll just go in this back room, and Mike said he'd be back too.
Great.
Looking for me, Bruce?
First thing
Yes.
is actually Lillibridge. And we're gonna try to do a detention basin there. Keep it from going on down through Donnie Roberts Field.
I know how to spell that. I have to think about Michael.
Michelle, where her parents were. And so
That's
on.
me, because I've never in my whole life used it.
I think I believe, I wish Steve was still here to say, but I believe that.
I have to think about it every single
That's
time.
where they got the most damage.
AEL, I think. Yeah.
How much did you get right in town? No, that's what they got at Kim Evans.
I have to look. I mean, because I've written EAL before, and it just looks wrong. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's not it.